Good evening, everyone. If you can come in and get seated, find your seat. We are so excited and humbled to have you at Cañada Presbyterian Church for this year's Baccalaureate Interfaith Service. My name is Anna Duncan. I am, in fact, a Cañada High School alum. I remember all the festivities, and I know that our seniors didn't get the senior year that they pictured or the senior year they dreamed of, but I'm excited that you guys have just a few of those classic senior events as you finish up your year. If you need anything during the service, we have some LCPC volunteers here that have these little orange name tags, and we are happy to help you with anything that you need. And I think without further ado, I'm going to welcome up my friend and coworker, Pastor Cindy Frost, for opening prayer.
Good evening. What a beautiful evening and what a special occasion. I feel so honored to get to offer the opening prayer this evening. I'm going to be praying from the Christian tradition. So before I start my prayer, I'm going to leave some time of silence so that you can pray or meditate or reflect in whatever way is meaningful to you. But let us join our hearts together. Loving God, on this special day, we thank you for your love for us and your faithfulness to us all. We thank you that we can gather in person to celebrate the accomplishments of these graduates, and that we can celebrate together with sisters and brothers of various faith traditions. We are so keenly aware of the challenges that these seniors have faced to get to this day, and how that makes this celebration that much more meaningful. We thank you for the love that is surrounding us in this place, for the family members and friends who have supported these graduates through the ups and downs of their lives so far. We take a moment of silence for us to remember and give thanks for all the teachers who have been part of their journey from pre-K until now. We thank you for the gift and the privilege of education and learning. Gracious God, we pray for each of these graduates as they embark on this next chapter of their life, whatever it might be. May they live lives of love, joy, and service, whatever their path. God, we welcome you into this moment, this day, this week of celebration. May your spirit of joy and love and peace fill each one present. We ask all of this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Dear assembled guests, parents and caregivers, friends of Cañada High School and the community of Cañada Flint Ridge, and most of all, the amazing students in the class of 2021. I'm honored to speak with you tonight, humbled by the chance to address you on this night of your Interfaith Baccalaureate. I'll keep the tradition of Baccalaureate alive tonight by providing a brief reflection from this most challenging and unique year, asking the audience tonight for some allowance that bends the Oxford tradition of speaking to you in Latin. While I could spend longer than the time allotted me tonight reciting to you the long list of things the pandemic has stolen from us, I'd rather celebrate the many factors that have sustained us, kept us together even when we were distant to one another. What you've done is remarkable, brave, and worthy of celebration. You've kept true to your values, true to your friendships and family, and have kept our community together. You've done this through Zoom and telepresence, continue your learning and connections, even if those changed markedly in ways that would have been hard to imagine before the pandemic. Listen to this: community in dispersal, presence in the form of absence. Remarkable indeed. Our students have stretched themselves beyond their known capacity, have stepped up, leaned in, and helped in ways big and small. From examples as simple as reaching out to someone they'd not spoken to in a while, to help leading us back to in-person instruction, in-person competition, and helping us get to the point where our community, state, and country appear to be returning to our pre-pandemic normal. That's good news and work well done. Thank you, students. As a school leader, I was sustained by the beautiful outpouring of this community that fostered in me an abiding sense of hope and solidarity associated with a common purpose. We wanted school to reopen, wanted you to enjoy the rituals and rhythms of the day, not beset by infection rates and colors in a tiered system, leaving me with an open quandary, and perhaps you too. How can I ever love my favorite color, purple, when it stood for so long as a symbol of the post-holiday surge, so long as a harbinger of things not normal, not safe, and keeping us all apart? In spite of all of that, collectively, we pursued the hope that community can thrive in absence of one another, a theme that has sustained people of faith for generations and centuries. For my own study, I reflect on the story of early Christian missionaries from the 16th century, leaving their homes in Europe to bring the story of the gospel to Americas and the Far East, sometimes answering an unwelcome call to lead and persevere in the face of adversity. They, like you, assembled here today, learned much about themselves as a result of their struggle. Early in the pandemic, I began keeping a list of people who I was thinking about, sending positive thoughts, prayers, and wishes for their well-being. In some cases, the names on that list were individuals, other times groups. During the pandemic, I also found time to learn, read, and listen to the biographies and stories from the past. One seems appropriate to share with you today. His name is Francis Xavier, one of the founding members of the Society of Jesus, you would otherwise known as the Jesuit Order of the Catholic Faith, and a leading missionary of Christian faith in Asia. Upon being asked to leave Rome in 1540, Francis Xavier gathered the signatures of his friends and had them sewn into a locket and necklace that he wore until the time of his death about a dozen years later on an island off the southern coast of modern-day China. So in the days of this challenging year, I took my list of names and adapted it to this historical practice and created my own locket, adding to it as the pandemic endured. While many of the names honored are personal in nature, I added the students of the class of 2021 early in the year when it became clear that our resolve, our community, and the bonds of our school would be tested. I so admired your courage, how you fought so valiantly and hard to keep your spirits, pushing through until semester's end. And I also felt, upon the return of the new year, that the enduring nature of the pandemic left many of you frustrated and questioning. Yet we remain true to our values, that education matters, that learning matters, that you matter. As we continue to journey to what we hope is a return to normal, allow me a moment to ask you, who's on your locket? Who do you keep close to your heart? What lessons can we take from these challenging times about how we overcame, how we persevered, and how we can carry those to overcome future challenges? I know I will carry examples of students in a caring community called La Cañada forward, thinking both collectively and to the many individuals here tonight about how you showed the very best qualities of character, showed continued kindness and connection to one another so that our community could not only remain but thrive. I will also cherish the memory of the class of 2021 as you are close to my heart. Spartans, assembled guests, friends of La Cañada High School, community members of La Cañada Flint Ridge, I'm honored to be able to speak to you tonight and remain humbled by the opportunity to serve as principal of this amazing high school where many of us go, called La Cañada. Thank you, and on to the Rose Bowl.
Good evening. The bad news is I have to follow Jim. But the good news is that I don't have to follow Chris Erskine. So for those of you who know me and know my wife, who was a second grade teacher and had many students that are actually graduating this year, we always do things together. So with that, she found a quote by Giles, which expresses, "True humor comes not more from the head than from the heart. Wit may be a thing of pure imagination, but humor involves sentiment and character." And that's Chris Erskine. For 30 years, his Los Angeles Times articles have made us laugh and cry. Currently, he continues to write and chronicles his daily living, featuring his precious family and friends. He digs into the complexities of life, connecting us all with his details and simple truths. When our committee asked Chris to be our speaker today, he said he needed to talk to his son. Evidence, Chris Erskine knows what's important. Chris?
Thank you, Mike. Thank you. How many principals do we have here tonight? My goodness. Yes, I prepared. I know that's going to stun some people. This didn't seem like the sort of event where you shouldn't do your homework. And actually halfway through you'll say to yourself, this guy did not prepare at all. So here I have evidence. But anyway, thank you. Thank you all here. The only difference between writers and crazy people is that writers get paid for it. So I think you've made an excellent choice here tonight. I don't think you'll be disappointed. I won't be long. The Lakers are on a little bit. The dog needs walking. We've done a lot of sitting around in the last year. We don't want to be sitting around for too long. So we'll keep this kind of brief. So welcome and hello. First, I'd like to thank all the churches that are involved here today. All the church, the staff and the volunteers. Just a tremendous. We're so gifted with schools, but we're also gifted with churches in this community. And they give us something, they say that democracy seems kind of scrambled lately, doesn't it? Somebody wants to describe democracy as 4 wolves and a sheep sitting down to discuss dinner. Because it's kind of messy, right? And so what we get from the church is a sense of self-forgiveness, right? A sense of forgiveness, which is so lacking. We can't do in life without forgiveness. So we thank you for that. We thank you for that. And we'd like to thank the administrators and the teachers in our great schools, from preschool on, like Jim was saying. We really are so lucky. I can't imagine what the last year has been like for you. I can't imagine the million emails and the second guessing and all the stuff that you went through. I thank you for that now. And to the students, we'll get to you in a second, okay? You tell people you live in La Cañada and they go, they're kind of impressed, La Cañada. La Cañada. It sounds like a designer purse, doesn't it? It even has that little smirk over the end, right? Like something a graphic designer would do. La Cañada. Flint Ridge, right? I tell people, we live in sort of the modest part of La Cañada. We live in South Central La Cañada. There's dads in our street that don't even have Lambos. So, it's not all the same. So welcome, La Cañada. Welcome, as I say, Funky Town. A city with 20,000 people and 30,000 garbage trucks. We know that on Mondays and Thursdays. And a bear in your pool, probably. A bear in your jacuzzi, probably right now. It's an amazing place. You may not appreciate it if you're 18 years old and sort of take it for granted, but it's an amazing place. You hit the jackpot growing up here. And I will tell you this, your parents worked really hard so that you could grow up in this community. Or they married well. Either way, good job, parents. Congrats to all our grads. You look fantastic. The first time I've seen many of you in a dress, especially the boys. I've known many of you since kindergarten. I really have. Actually, I've known, I think, Devin Cox and Keaton Comstock since preschool. I've known Jack Erskine almost his whole life. Chase Kirstein, Thomas Decker, I taught them how to swing a baseball bat. Chris Nava, I taught him how to swing a baseball bat. And you know what? They went on to have really outstanding careers anyway. If I'd only known what I was doing. Yeah, I was a parent volunteer at Palmcrest. I was at Palmcrest so often, they thought I was one of the janitors. They'd ask me to fix stuff. I just sort of do it. You know, I go like, it's just easier than explaining it. What happened with the volunteer thing is if I didn't go to back to school night, you know, maybe I was tired, maybe I was working late, whatever it was. But if I missed back to school night, my wife would sign me up for everything. Every field trip, every play, every picnic, everything, right? And so I was at remember the pumpkin farm thing? Like it's up in Fresno? Wasn't that a fun ride? Ever ridden 100 miles in a yellow school bus with a warm sack lunch? That's living. I got to tell you, that's life right there. The Pilgrim, remember the Pilgrim? Remember the Pilgrim? Did you ever think this thing's going to sink? And then like a year or two ago, it did. It actually sank. The 6th grade play, Valley Forge, all the memories. Somehow I missed out on Valley Forge. But let me just say it's been a pleasure watching you from an early age. It's one of the great things about this town is you get to graduate high school with many of the kids that you went to kindergarten with. And I think that's just a wonderful thing. When I first saw I love the banners on Foothill Boulevard. Now the flags are up. It's a wonderful time of year here in La Cañada. The banner, I got to say, when I first saw the banners, I thought they were wanted posters. Like Jesse James and the Old West and the whole thing. And I thought to myself, you know, what could these kids have done at such a young... I mean, I know one of them who hasn't made his bed in like 3 years. And I still peel his oranges for him. And when he's done with when he's done with the milk, he puts it back in the refrigerator, even if there's no milk in it, in case somebody wants an empty carton. There it is, right there. But it's and then I asked myself, is that enough to justify, you know, this campaign, this wanted campaign? I said, yes, I think it is. Let me tell you, I have such respect, just to pile on what Jim was saying, I have such respect for this graduating class. You were born right after 9/11. You grew up in a lot of political turmoil. And we think like things couldn't get any worse. There was a global pandemic, right? I mean, and you could react to that and you could say, wow, what a lousy world. But I don't see that. I don't see the cynicism, and I don't see you jaded. I see you happy and smiling and resilient. And I just want to say that. I thank you for that. Thank you for your resilience. Thank you for your laughter. Thank you for your heart. I mean, heart is everything in life. We see these sunflowers. Up here in front. You know the story about sunflowers. Naturally, if you put a bunch of sunflowers in a vase and on the windowsill, they will turn toward the sun. That's what sunflowers do, right? They seek out the sun. But if you put a vase of sunflowers in a dark room, in a dark environment, you know what sunflowers do? They turn toward each other. That's what sunflowers do. And what you've done in the last year is turn toward each other. And I hope you will continue to do that. Turn toward each other. As the sun comes out and we get out and about and life comes back to normal, still rely on each other. Yet, and I will quote, the world is not a kind place. The world is not a kind place. You know who said that? The world is not a kind place? Mr. Rogers, of all people. Mr. Rogers, who painted the world in such, happy strokes and everything else, Mr. Rogers said the world is not a kind place. And if Mr. Rogers tells you that, you better believe it, right? Because he doesn't lie. You know who made Mr. Rogers sweaters, by the way? His mother. You know all those sweaters that he wore all the time? His mother knitted those sweaters for him. Because even back then, mothers wouldn't really leave you alone. So... you know what a gift that is when your mother won't leave you alone, right? You know how lucky you are to have that? You know what a mother's first thought every morning is when she wakes up? Your mother's first thought is, I got to get me some Starbucks. But after that, it's you, okay? And you all day long. It is such a gift. I have 3 tips for you today. Number 1, save 10% of everything you earn. 10%. 15's better, but 10%, no less than that. Number 2, when you cut a sandwich, tuck your thumb in real tight like this, because you're going to need both thumbs. Trust me, in your life, you're going to need both thumbs. So tuck that in. Number 3, when you fall in love, don't tell everybody. Don't be like Taylor Swift and blabbering it around there, to everybody. I mean, love's tough enough. Love's tough enough without jinxing it. It's like a baseball game. Like when you get a no-hitter in a baseball game and you start talking about it and you jinx it. That's what love is. Don't jinx it. Don't tell anybody. Just appreciate it for what it is. Just appreciate it for what it is. There's a poet by the name of Randy Queen. I don't know if you ever heard of him. He did some comic book work, and he's not really well known. Randy Queen has a nice quote. He said, "Life is finite and fragile. Everything is temporary except love. Love outlasts everything." I'm not sure about that, Randy. No, it doesn't, or there wouldn't be Taylor Swift songs, right? So in addition to those three tips, I have a very simple survival tool for you. It took me, 60-something years to sort of come up with this survival tool. The tool is, so what? Okay? So you hate your hair today? So what? So that guy you're really crazy about is suddenly ghosting you? So what? So that amazing girl doesn't even know you exist? So what? So you didn't get that internship you were just dying to get? So what? Okay? You got that? College? You're a little freaked out about going to college? So what? Who isn't? Who wouldn't be freaked out about going off to college 2,000, 3,000 miles away, or even 200 miles away? So what? So what is a pressure relief valve? It doesn't mean you don't care. It means that you're defiant. It means you don't give up. So what gets you out of a lot of stuff? I seem to have lost my place here. So what, right? I used to write about sport. I used to write about sports a lot. I scored 5 points against the Harlem Globetrotters in a game in Vegas. I played for the Washington Generals. The thing about the Trotters, it sounds kind of impressive, but the thing about the Trotters, they don't play very good defense. In fact, they play a 2-1 zone, and there's 5 of them. So that means 2 guys don't do anything, basically. So you can drive to the basket on the Trotters. I got a layup, and then I sank a 3, and then they intentionally fouled me. They intentionally fouled me and sent me to the free throw line. As I was taking my free throw, Meadowlark, or Special K, I think his name is now. Special K came up behind me and pantsed me as I was taking my free throw. And I was never the same player after that. In fact, I haven't been the same man since that. There were 18,000 people in the arena. Also, when I wrote about sports, I talked to a Dodger pitcher by the name of Eric Gagne. I don't know if you kids probably don't remember. He was a Cy Young winner about the time you were born, right after maybe. Your parents probably know Eric Gagne. He was a big French-Canadian beast. When you're impressive in sports, they call you a beast. You call that in any other line of work, maybe not so good. But Eric Gagne was a real live beast. He was a great pitcher for the Dodgers, and I had breakfast with him one time. I said, "So tell me about the mental things you go through as a pitcher. How do you cope with when things aren't going your way? How did you do that?" He said, "When I was a young pitcher, when I was in my early 20s, he goes, and I didn't get a call. I threw a strike, and I knew it was a strike, and the umpire called it a ball. I would get so bent out of shape." He goes, "Oh, God, it should be 2-2 and it's 3-1. And there's a big difference, his novel will tell you, between 3-1 and 2-2, right? In especially a major league hitter. And he gets so bent out of shape. And then he realized, this is doing me no good at all. This is doing me no good at all. It's 3-1 now. Now what are you going to do? Now what are you going to do?" That was his way of saying, so what? That was his way of going on. And that moment changed his life. It changed his career, and he ultimately won the Cy Young. So that's my my story on Gagne. This year, these days we hear a lot about adulting. That word adulting, I guess, is basically a new word for growing up, right? Adulting. What's adulting? Adulting means you only dance at weddings, right? Adulting means you haven't heard a new song you like in about 20 years. Well, adulting means that you're the one who locks the front door at night and turns out the lights. It means if you sit down on the couch for more than 5 minutes, you're probably going to fall asleep and people are going to make fun of you. That's adulting. There's a lot of positives to being an adult. Nothing comes to mind. Okay, I'll tell you one thing. It's you. It's you out there in your funny pajamas, okay? Much as we gripe about you, as much as we ride your butts, if we hovered too much like Mrs. Rogers, it's because we love you. We really just want you to be happy. And as we celebrate this milestone, it will leave a hole in our hearts. When you go off in a few months, it will leave a hole in our hearts. And so when you see parents around in the next few months, give them a slap on the back, an attaboy, something like that. You don't have to hug them. We can't hug anybody anymore. But you don't even have to talk to them. I know how unpleasant that is. Okay? But give them a slap on the back and say, "How you doing, Dad? How you doing, Mom?" We had tough lives. Your parents had tough lives when they were young. When they were young, there was no Venmo. There was no Bitcoin. Can you imagine what that was like? There's no Wi-Fi. You can't even imagine what that was like. No TikTok. There wasn't even a Chick-fil-A. Chickens had just been invented. We didn't know you could fry them back then. So your folks have seen some difficult times, and nothing will be more difficult than the day they drop you in the dorm and hug you goodbye. And Mom will cry, and Dad will cry. Big babies, the dads. They cry more than the moms. But it's so cut them some slack on that. And here's the thing. You are their Rembrandts. You are their works of art. Okay? Some of you are Picassos. Let's admit it. Some of you are comic book heroes. But you are absolutely your parents' favorite works of art. All right? You have to know that. One last story. I promise, because I told you I'd keep this short because the dog needs to go out. He's already eaten through the door. The Lakers are on a little bit. So, yes, Mr. Erskine, I will keep this short. I know a guy by the name of Steve Searles. You don't know that name. Steve Searles is the bear handler up in Mammoth Lakes, California. Place you've heard of, Mammoth Lakes. Steve was hired to control the town's bear population. They were all over the place, these bears. And they hired him to do this. Actually, they hired him to hunt down the bears. And he says, "No, I think I can work with these bears." Because what Steve found out about the California black bear is they were no threat to anybody. Now, a grizzly is a different beast. A grizzly will eat the tire off your truck. All a black bear wants to do is mow your lawn. And Steve found that out. And Steve, when he realized that he had nothing to fear from these bears and could work with them and didn't have to hunt them and shoot them, he started to ask himself, what else do I fear that I shouldn't fear? What else do I fear because I don't understand it? Because it dresses differently, eats differently, has different customs, is from another land. What else is out there that I fear that I shouldn't? And Steve's great sort of mantra is, I hate fear. I hate what it does to people. I hate the way it keeps you from doing things. And so I wanted to end with this little poem about fear. There's a wonderful poet by the name of Kalisa Ray. I don't know if that rings a bell with you. She wrote best about fear. She wrote, "Remember the Wizard of Oz? What if Dorothy wasn't afraid of the wind? What if she welcomed the cyclone? What if she saw it as an escape, being tossed and jolted? Well, I promise you tonight, at some point you will be tossed and jolted. But wonder if, like Dorothy, you weren't afraid. You weren't afraid of falling. You weren't afraid of the wind. And when you do fall, you just picked yourself up, shrugged a little, and said, 'So what?' And said, 'So what?' Thank you very much. You've been great tonight. Thank you all very much.
been a long, dark night, and I've been waiting for the morning. It's been a long, hard fight, but I can see a brand new day dawning. I've been looking for the sunshine, 'cause I ain't seen it in so long. Everything's gonna work out just fine. Everything's gonna be alright. It's been all wrong, 'cause I can see the light of a clear blue morning. I can see the light of a brand new day. I can see the light of a clear blue morning. Everything's gonna be alright. It's gonna be okay. It's been a long, long time since I've known the taste of freedom and those clinging vines have me bound. Well, I don't need them. I've been like a captured eagle. You know an eagle's born to fly. Now that I have won my freedom, like an eagle, I am eager for the sky. 'Cause I can see the light of a clear blue morning. I can see the light of a brand new day. I can see the light of a clear blue morning. And everything's gonna be alright. It's gonna be okay. I can see the light of a clear blue Everything's gonna be alright. It's gonna be okay. Everything's gonna be alright. It's gonna be okay.
Oh, wow. There are a lot more of you than I thought there were. Well, good evening. My name is Lonnie Blanchard. Thank you, Monsignor Antonio, wherever you are. Oh, there you are. Hi. And to our youth minister, Andre Nakado, and St. Bede the Venerable Church for gifting me this opportunity to speak in front of all of you. Well, congratulations to the class of 2021. Before I begin, we need to take a moment and thank our parents, grandparents, family, friends, mentors, teachers, and everyone watching at home who cannot be with us tonight. Actually, wait, it's being recorded, so oops. This is their moment too. Let's give them a round of applause. I am humbled to be in the company of my fellow student speakers. First, Kaylee Bond, one of the smartest people I have ever met. She is also an incredible athlete and can outrun 98% of the people in our grade. Seema Kayali, one of our community's great ASB leaders. Remember her name, because she will be running the country one day. Leah Alaska Sandelman, an extremely talented artist whose work we will likely see in the National Gallery of Art or the Met. My advice, buy now, be rich later. Her art will be worth enough to purchase a small island. Jaden Milbrow, who, to be fair, to all of those who know him or of him, is one of LCHS's top cross-country runners. He has perfect grades and drives a Jeep that we graduating seniors are all hoping to find in our driveway after our ceremony. Parents, please remember, we are the class who went through the pandemic. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And Mom, preferably black on black with 4 doors, thanks. And then there's me. I don't want to toot my own horn, but my greatest achievements include winning the tango competition at my 5th grade cotillion. And as a captain of the boys varsity water polo team, I led LCHS to a stellar, record-breaking 2 wins and 16 losses in a season. The class of 2021 is resilient. We are the class that survived Cardi B's infamous performance at the Grammys, and unfortunately, the end of Keeping Up with the Kardashians. We are the class that was told for nearly a year and a half that we were not allowed to go places. And let's be honest, most of us were grounded for about 75% of our 7th through 11th grade years, so we were pretty much Navy SEAL trained for this. But in all seriousness, class of 2021, we have finally arrived. Graduation is now upon us, and our parents are counting the hours until they launch us out into the world after the year they have spent at home with us. This year, we tragically lost grandparents, family members, almost anybody that we can think of, people have lost. We are unable to visit all of our close family, like our grandparents, aunts, uncles, and our closest friends. Churches were closed. Sporting events were canceled. Restaurants and movie theaters were shut down. We lost the elements that made up our support system, the same elements of humanity that pushed us forward every day. I learned a lot during my 4 years of high school. The lockdown was the most poignant. I watched as the world faced this never-before-seen pandemic. If that wasn't enough, we coupled it with nationwide social injustice. They say that as Generation Z, we are positioned to be history's most educated generation. Hashtag sorry, not sorry, millennials. And therefore, use the most powerful weapon we had, our phones. Social media platforms exploded. The truth amongst the issues was difficult to assess, and hatred ensued. A deeper polarization resulted. I witnessed many of us publicly humiliate, defame, destroy homes, buildings, businesses, and tell our once friends that we now hate them, that they are stupid, that they are no longer our friends. We hid behind our phones. We typed words such as Democrat, Republican, gun control, BLM, and somehow they became words that were hateful. We began to identify ourselves by who we aligned with in the last election, and then we chose our new friends based on whatever end of the political spectrum they were on. Is this really what the most educated generation does to one another when we have such power? We have the power to change and combat what is happening in our country. I'll give you an example. Mullets, Crocs, and tie-dye are back. I would have never thought that. Girls think they're cool. We did that. Our generation did that. That's the power of Gen Z. That's how influential we can be with the phones we carry and the people we meet. However, with that type of influence, we also have a responsibility. To combat polarization, we must realize that our world is not black and white, and that there is no right and wrong. As humans, there comes a whole lot of gray between all the black and white. As individuals, we need to do a better job of listening. We need to be less judgmental. We have to accept that two people can be right. We need to take the time to understand where someone came from, what their family journey may be, what their religious beliefs are. And if it varies from your view, guess what? It doesn't mean that they are evil. They are also coming from what they believe to be good. If you take the time to get to the core of someone's beliefs, you will find common ground. React with curiosity rather than anger. Show interest in their point of view and ask questions to understand it rather than tell them they are wrong. My mom always says, it doesn't matter if someone is black, white, purple, or if they have green fluorescent dots all over them. Choose your friends based on the quality of their character and those that share your same values. My family lives that every day. Take, for example, this story. My mother's close friend is here with us this evening. Hi, Uncle Owen. Hey. There he is. I mean, he's quite the character, but I love him. My sister and I call him Uncle, whether we are at home or yelling at him across the USC quad on game day. We get a lot of strange looks, but do we care? No. My mom and Lawan tell us that the reactions from people open dialogue that is needed and help people learn about the different types of friendship. In my family, Lawan is a man just like any other, and my mom is a female just like the rest. What the rest of the world sees, though, is a black man with a different sexual preference and a white woman who is assumed to be right-wing conservative Catholic. Lawan and my mom may differ on a lot of issues, but at their core, their morals and values are very so similar, and never once have they judged each other for their views. What they were able to achieve is something I believe is attainable. They took the time to listen to one another. In order to begin this process of change, we must realize that we have something in common with each and every one of the people around us. That common denominator is humanity. Whether liberal, conservative, Catholic, Jewish, Mormon, Muslim, or none of the above, we are all human. Human beings matter and should come first. It's a human job to understand others. It's a human job to love rather than hate for our differences. But most importantly, this quality allows us to be leaders. It's not about being in charge. It's not about a fancy title or how many followers you have on YouTube. It's about the importance of understanding. It's about how you treat people. Practice empathy consistently. Ask the person if they are okay. Reach out to the person that you feel may need help. Be a concerned human being. Be vulnerable. Be vulnerable in the sense that you admit when you're wrong, you admit when you're scared, you admit when you've made a mistake, or that you need help, or that you have no idea in the world what you are doing. The pandemic is our defining moment. It's changed us in many ways. We will be better off because of it. Challenge yourselves, ditch convention, and forge new paths as you search for your place in this changing world. Always be kind, and don't ever embarrass your parents. You never know if that Jeep will be waiting in the driveway. Thank you for the privilege and pleasure of speaking with you today.
Hi, my name is Kaylee Bond, and I'm a senior attending Kristen McCaffley's Academy School of Arts and Sciences, and I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I want to thank my church leaders for giving me the honor of speaking tonight, and I want to thank each of you for coming to support the senior class of 2021. When I first wrote the remarks I was going to make tonight, they were all very generic statements about how my faith has helped me throughout my life. I wanted to make it sound like I had everything figured out, that my life was going exactly the way I wanted. I made sure not to include any personal struggles or weaknesses because that would ruin the perfect facade I was trying to put on. The perfect facade I've been trying to put on for many years. What I realized is that my faith has developed because of my struggles, not despite them. It is for that reason that I share with each of you my struggle with a mental illness. I was clinically diagnosed with OCD in 8th grade. My OCD is like an extreme perfectionism. Because of it, I often derive my worth by how well I meet the bar of perfection. And as you can imagine, I always find myself falling short. Although you may not have OCD, you may be able to relate to the all too common feeling of being inadequate. I've spent many years searching for the feeling of being enough. And the only place I have found it is in the loving Heavenly Father and through the atoning sacrifice of Jesus Christ. I've come to the conclusion that, yeah, I may not be enough, but God is, and He can make up the difference. I find my worth as a daughter of a Heavenly Father and in Jesus Christ who gave His life for me. So, you are good enough. You are loved, but that does not mean you are yet complete. Through my struggles with OCD, I have learned another valuable lesson, that God knows me individually. Not only does He know me, but He cares about me. A few years ago, I was given a blessing, that I would not be obsessed with things of unimportance. Now, this blessing might not seem out of the ordinary given my history with OCD, but this blessing is miraculous, considering the person who gave it to me was previously unaware of my OCD diagnosis. It has been experiences like this that have left me to know without a shadow of a doubt that the Lord knows, cares about, and is in the details of my life. Tonight, I have shared with you 2 pieces of my testimony in hopes of strengthening yours. Because the testimonies of your friends, family and church leaders will only get you so far. While attending a boarding school, I found myself at a crossroads similar to the one many of you seniors now face. I was away from home without anyone telling me to read my scriptures or to say my daily prayers. It was completely up to me whether I did any of it. I took that opportunity to learn for myself whether or not there was a God, whether or not He loved me, whether or not He cared about me. I took that opportunity to figure out what I believed in, independent of anyone else. I realized that if I didn't figure out what I stood for, I would fall for anything. In the Book of Mormon, a scriptural text in my religion, we read, "Remember, remember, that it is upon the rock of our Redeemer, who is Christ, the Son of God, that ye must build your foundation. That when the devil shall send forth his mighty winds, yea, his shafts in the whirlwind, yea, when all his hail and his mighty storm shall beat upon you, it shall have no power over you, to drag you down to the gulf of misery and endless woe. Because of the rock upon which ye are built, which is a sure foundation, a foundation whereon if men build, they cannot fall." If you have not already developed faith in your beliefs, I challenge you to develop it, so that you can have an anchor in the storms of life and a constant in the ever-increasing chaos the world has to offer. Now to the graduating seniors, the class of 2021. Congratulations. I can't wait to see the amazing things you are going to do. God be with you till we meet again. I say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Wow, I thought I was going to fall. Assalamu alaikum, or peace be upon you. My name is Sime Kiali, and I'm a Syrian American who practices Islam regularly. I'd just like to start by saying that no religion is easy to be a part of, especially Islam. It takes so much for people our age to still maintain our faith throughout throughout the hardest periods of our lives. And that is why this is why I'm here today to talk amongst other religions. Growing up in a community where everyone was just like me was always something I'll forever cherish. I went to an Islamic school in Pasadena until the age of 6, and until then, I had only been surrounded by people who were just like me. I spoke Arabic almost all the time and actively participated in my faith by learning how to pray and reviewing excerpts from the Quran. It was so easy to adhere to these certain expectations because that's all I knew. I was so connected to my religion and culture as I started predominantly speaking Arabic, and I watched my parents who came from Syria continue their routines as faithful Islamic people who always put God first. Then first grade came and everything changed. I left my comfortable life in Pasadena and moved to San Marino, where I was one of the few Muslims in my grade. At that age, just making friends alone was hard, but when you are in a group of people who are nothing like you, it starts to be hard to keep that connection with your faith and culture. I wouldn't say I had changed myself, but I chose to refrain from offering any information about my race and religion to avoid any questions being asked. That is when I began steering away from speaking Arabic at home and when I decided to comply with my environment. There was always an occasional Christmas or Easter decorating party in class that left me having explained to my peers why Santa didn't come to my house or why I wasn't going to meet the Easter Bunny. But in elementary school, you won't hear much ridicule because we are virtually clueless. So I lived my life with two adaptive realities. At home, I practiced Islam regularly and I tried to speak Arabic as often as possible. At school, I hid my authenticness with anything that would make me fit in, because frankly, explaining these little things so many times made me exhausted. I just wished people were familiar with Islam like other religions. After my time in San Marino, I left feeling this kind of emptiness. I felt like I was never at home when I was there. Then comes 5th grade. I moved to La Cañada, Flintridge, where once again, many weren't like me. It never really affected me until middle school, where people that age loved sharing their unwarranted opinions. I walked into school not caring about hiding my faith or culture. I was so vocal about it. And with pride came people who felt the need to tear it down. I was called a terrorist, people compared their skin color with mine. Every time a loud noise was made, I was looked at, and people would say that Muslims were bombing the school. And many truly asked me if I knew members of ISIS. That was pretty damaging. Looking back, I don't even know why kids that age were so misled by my people. I struggled during Ramadan when people would be in disbelief that I couldn't eat or drink. I was told that fasting for my faith was basically an eating disorder and that I should stop. I was mocked by my peers who would shove food and water in my face when they knew I was fasting. I had to explain how Allah was God in Arabic and described how similar our beliefs really were. It was so frustrating seeing my beautiful culture and meaningful religion, Islam, be smeared by blatant racism and Islamophobia. When being surrounded by so much negativity, there's kind of self-doubt that can weigh you down. The things said sound horrible, but when I tell you I would never change a thing, I truly mean it. This ridicule was such a huge part of my growth as a Muslim, and I soon became extremely proud of who I was. I ran to any opportunity to educate others on my faith and my beautiful people who are constantly misinterpreted and are represented by such a rough perception. I met my people who had the same beliefs and an amazing group of friends who wanted to learn and truly embrace my religion. I believe that if this had never happened, I wouldn't have been so connected with my community and other people's communities. I continue to push for things and strive to prove people wrong, and even myself. I always appreciate anything that happens, whether good or bad, because all of this has prepared me for a successful life beyond high school. As I go to college, I'll be ready to stand up for myself and defend my religion, and I urge that any troubles that you all go through, you do the same. I have learned to know that when to be aggressive and take what I want. The unpleasant experiences I faced prepared me for college and have reconnected me with my faith, so much so that I have a good steady head on my shoulders when I leave the nest. I am so grateful that I can continue to practice my religion proudly by celebrating holidays with my community and openly speaking on issues that pertain to all of us. My faith in God has never been stronger. I am extremely grateful to have been part of such a welcoming and full of selfless action with a community that I genuinely love. I will forever thank my parents for continuing to push me towards my faith and for always having such a huge impact on my life. And I would like to thank the parents here today and also the class of 2021 for all of us coming together. I think that we truly showed our humanity through all of this. It's honestly surprised me so much how people can come together through probably the worst times that we'll probably experience. And I know that the class of 2021 will not let their kids not hear about this. We're gonna remind them anytime they complain, well, we lived through a pandemic and we were born after 9/11. So, but yeah, I'd just like to thank all of you for coming today, and I'm really proud of us. So yeah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Leah Laska-Sandelman, and I just want to say congratulations to the class of 2021. I share my religion with people proudly. I am Jewish. It is part of my identity, and it has always been. I remember growing up and going to Passover Seders at my granddad's house, Hanukkah parties at my great-aunt Sivia's house, and Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur services. I have always valued Judaism in my life because it is part of the foundation for who I am. Judaism is not just a religion to me. It is the connection to something spiritual. The feeling of being grounded to the earth during the silent Amidah. It is the beautiful melodies that perfectly complement the meaningful words within the prayers. It is the loving community that is my synagogue. It is the excitement I feel when my cantor walks onto the bima. It is the support I feel when I receive a hug from Maura Sandra, my 7th grade Hebrew school teacher. It is what has shaped me into who I am today. Throughout high school, I have faced different obstacles. Part of it includes the stress of wanting to get good grades and be a good student. Another part of it was dealing with my mental health and the effects of a high conflict divorce. A new part of it is just getting through a pandemic and being isolated from others. But no matter what I go through, the support was consistent and unconditional. I remember being in the midst of an eating disorder, unable to see reality, and constantly judging everything I did. I could not eat a meal without feeling guilty after that. I remember every day being a challenge. I would wake up thinking that everything would be just fine, and I would go to bed hoping that the next day would be better. Because, of course, I wanted to get better, but I didn't think I deserved better. Every time I went to services throughout that time of my life, I felt more calm and hopeful. Services helped me forget about the intrusive thoughts in the moment. I was able to focus on something that I loved. I remember one time after Friday night services, I went to my cantor and she offered me a hug. I immediately fell into her arms and started crying. I remember receiving handwritten letters from Sandra while I was in the hospital. It wasn't just one note that I was sent. It was many. That support meant the world to me. I couldn't love myself at the time, but it meant a lot to see that people outside of my family cared about me. It meant a lot to see that I was worth something. Those same cards stay pinned to the wall around the mirror in my room. I remember having a heartfelt conversation with Melissa Levy, my youth director, about my mental health. At the time, I was considering giving up on all the work I had done for the previous 4 years, but she encouraged me to keep going. She reminded me how far I have come, and she helped me find more meaning in the obstacles I have faced. Knowing that I have become more self-aware and confident within myself throughout the past 4 years. I received the same support when I was overwhelmed with school. Congregants offered to help me or just listen to me complain about all the work I had to do. I received the same support after my granddad passed away 2 years ago. My cantor and I sang Psalm 150 to the tune of Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah at the funeral service together to honor him. I received the same support on my birthdays, when reading Torah or Haftarah, and when being with my youth group. I love being Jewish. It's these moments that make me love my religion. I have a community behind me that teaches me love and acceptance, along with being there for me no matter what. That support will last me for a lifetime. I love being Jewish, not because I love reading the Torah or studying different parashas. It is because without the people that I have met through Judaism, I would just be a shell of who I am. They have helped me become my own self, find my own values, and trust that with everything, I can resiliently persevere. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jaden Milbrodt, and I'm honored to be representing La Cañada Presbyterian Church. I'm a senior at La Cañada High School, and I will be attending UC San Diego this fall. Thanks to my parents, I've been attending church all my life, going to Sunday school whenever I could to get out of boring big church. I thought I'd escaped when I made it to the Sunday school room, but they tricked me into learning about Jesus anyways. But just like in school, I was competitive and always tried my best. I jumped to read Bible verses for the group and to answer questions about well-known Bible stories. Luckily, all through elementary school, this thick, scary book called the Bible was made a little more digestible for a kid my age. But as the carefree wave of elementary school ended, the ocean of stress and the realities of high school began to flow in. It was certainly a change I had been expecting, but it threw me nonetheless. Thankfully, I had always had the church to come back to. Through the epic highs and lows of the last 4 years, I've had a rock, and this rock has given me a couple lessons to hold on to. I'd like to share a few moments that have stuck to me and have guided my journey. So first, I'd like to establish that I stress out sometimes. I stressed out all through high school, and Lord knows I stressed out about this. But there's a verse I learned at church that has given me strength in these times of anxiety. In Luke 12:27, Jesus says this, "Consider how the wild flowers grow. They do not spin, nor do they toil, yet not even Solomon in all his glory was clothed like one of these." Every time I was worried about the future, whether or not I would live up to my expectations, or even if I'd failed an assignment, I remembered this verse, Jesus telling me, "I've got your back." Thanks, Jesus. But obviously I couldn't make it through high school off the notion that I would do fine no matter what I did or didn't do. There were things to do and there were jobs to finish. Many of you know I run cross country and track, thanks Lonnie, and have since freshman year. Talk about a commitment. I had to do a lot of work to get where I was today, from 6 a.m. practices to practice every day after school. And I wouldn't have been so inspired without a sermon I heard at church a few years ago. My pastor used the Fourth Amendment to explain the duty of work. Exodus verse 8 reads, "Remember the Sabbath day, to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God." You shall labor is the foremost statement, and the one he emphasized. I use this idea to stay inspired, to continue forward no matter what the challenge was. I knew that the day of rest would be all the more sweet should the days before be marked by a dedication to work. The last of my stories comes from my high school youth director, Anna Duncan. She's been in the high school and middle school program in some capacity for just as long as my senior class, so it's easy to see why she's left an impact on so many of us. A few years ago, she gave us a piece of advice in one of her sermons. When asking us to keep Jesus in the forefront of our minds, she suggested a strategy that had worked for her, writing the word pray right here on your hand. I don't know about you, but I don't use this part of my hand too much, so it was pretty safe from getting rubbed off throughout the day. But it's just at the right spot to catch your attention, which is all you need to do. I've written this on my hand countless times throughout high school, in times of stress, but also in times of gratitude. I'll always remember from Anna that prayer is not a chore, but the most meaningful way you can express your connection to God. Now, I've got stories to tell for days, but that's not why I'm here. The stories I've recounted are important to me because they become my principles. And looking back on the last 4 years, I can narrow it down to 3. I don't pretend to have everything figured out, but this is what I've got so far. Don't worry about it too much. God's got your back. Always work hard and earn your rest. And most importantly, pray. Don't stress, work hard, pray often. It's important to clarify that not stressing doesn't mean doing nothing. It doesn't mean sitting around on my butt all day. It means I can take risks. It means the Lord is my Savior. Literally. He has saved me. He has saved you. He will save me, and he will save you. I've spent too much of my life doing nothing, my body and brain turning to mush, and man, it hurts to say that. But I'll be forever thankful to my church friends and leaders for pulling me to safety. So I send you with this message, born from my years in the church, for my mistakes and my successes. From the love of God, go out and do something. Do life. For God is my Savior, and his grace cannot be lost. I'd like to leave you with these words from gospel artist Kirk Franklin. Father, this prayer is for everyone who feels they're not good enough. Father, this prayer is for everyone who feels they're too messed up. For everyone who feels they've said I'm sorry too many times. You can never go too far when you can't come back home again. That's why I need faith.
I know I say this probably every year, but I think those were the finest student speakers we've ever had. And I thank you so much for your remarks. I thank you for your honesty and for your faith. Thank you. It is so good to be here with you tonight. We missed Baccalaureate last year, and it was quite a miracle. I will say not quite a miracle like the parting of the Red Seas, but very close to that allowed us to put this program together tonight. And I do feel like the hand of God was with us because I feel like he wanted this to happen tonight. My name is Christy Franson, and it is my great honor and joy to be the chair of the Baccalaureate Committee. I would like to introduce my colleagues to you and invite them to stand and be recognized. Levent Akbarut and Nahid Ansari from the Islamic Congregation of La Cañada, Flint Ridge. Anna Duncan from La Cañada Presbyterian Church. I hope she's here. There she is in the back. Andre Nickdow and Mike Leininger from St. Bede Venerable Catholic Church. Linda Rice from Temple Sinai of Glendale. I'm not sure Linda is with us tonight. And Gilda Vartanians from the Armenian Apostolic Church of Crescenta Valley, who's here. And I am from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Thank you. I am so grateful for these good people, and especially tonight for Anna and the staff and members of La Cañada Presbyterian Church for hosting us tonight. This event was a huge logistical challenge, and they went above and beyond to make sure that all of us could meet safely, in person, together for this beautiful evening. So thank you so much to everybody from LCPC. One thing sadly missing from our program this evening is our traditional processional and recessional. But at least we can have all of the graduates stand right now and look around at each other. Congratulations, graduates, 2021. The first time modeling your wonderful caps and gowns, and you look fantastic. I also want to acknowledge and thank the many religious and civic leaders that we have with us from our community here tonight, and thank you all for honoring us with your presence. We wanted this baccalaureate to be extra special for you graduates and parents who have endured all manner of turmoil and disappointment this last year and a half. I thought long and hard about something we could give you as a keepsake that would be meaningful, not only as a remembrance of this evening, but maybe even useful as you go out into life, and also something that was somehow symbolic of a deeper, much more profound and valuable gift. And what I came up with was a pen. just what you were all hoping for, I'm sure, right? A pen. But this pen is not just any old ordinary pen. This pen, though you can't see it, but it is inscribed with Baccalaureate 2021. And I hope that this pen will remind you of the wise and important words spoken to you with such love by our own resident writer, Chris Erskine, who has made his living and blessed countless lives with his pen. Just think of the good you might be able to do with your pen. Those birds. So think of the good you might be able to do with your pen. I know it was said tonight that your cell phones are your most powerful tool, but I suggest that the pen has not become obsolete yet. This pen, I hope, will also remind you that your story is not finished. It's barely started. And even if some of the recent chapters in the story of your life haven't gone quite the way you liked, you get to write the ending just the way you want. Maybe some of you are familiar with the musical Matilda. The main character is a very young, precocious, extraordinary girl named Matilda, who was born into a terrible family. She is misunderstood, unloved, unappreciated, and miserable, until one day she realizes that although she had no control over how her story began, she could decide how it was going to end. She sings a song at this moment of epiphany, because that's what people do in musicals. And here's what she sings. I'm not going to sing it for you. These are the words. Just because you find that life's not fair, it doesn't mean that you just have to grin and bear it. If you always take it on the chin and wear it, nothing will change. Even if you're little, you can do a lot. You mustn't let a little thing like little stop you. You have to put it right. But nobody else is going to put it right for me. Nobody but me is going to change my story. Matilda did not sit around moaning and groaning about how unfair life is. She did not get bitter and angry. She did not wait around for someone to solve her problems for her. She was creative and resilient and courageous and full of irrepressible hope and optimism about her future. Kind of reminds me of words that have been used to describe you, graduates, the class of 2021. Obstacles and challenges did not miraculously disappear from her life. This pen is not a magic wand, my friends. But Matilda persisted. She never gave up or gave in, and she wrote her own happy ending. So let this pen be a daily reminder that, like Matilda, you have both the power and the responsibility to write your own story. Write well, write carefully, write boldly, and above all, write with love. But my greatest hope and prayer is that this pen will also remind you every day that you are not alone in your writing project. You have a Father in heaven who started your story, and he will surely help you finish it. He is the author and finisher of every good thing in your life. I urge you to write him into your story. In fact, let him be the main character. He has unimaginable plans for your life that far exceed even your wildest dreams for yourself. Don't forget to give this pen to him and just watch what he can do to your story. Let me leave you with some words spoken to a group of graduates just like you. Take a moment to look back now, not in mourning, but in wonder. Cherish those moments that spark and crackle in your memory, those instances when you dared to hope for better worlds or expanded capacity. Savor those instances where something beautiful sprang up from the ashes of regret. see that story of you being penned by an author and finisher who has brought you this far and will not forsake you now or ever. Look to the east, to the mountains yet to climb, and visions yet to break open to your view. Sense the beauty of the story that is still being told in you and through you, of a plan that remains gloriously unfinished. As you leave, we have some wonderful COVID-safe refreshments for you to take with you. There will be students at the exit points with baskets, so be sure to take one of those treats. Be sure to get your pen before you leave. I do not want 300 Baccalaureate 2021 pens in my house, so we have one for everybody. And if graduates, if you have some friends who are not here tonight, you'd like to take one to them, be sure to do that, please. I want to give many thanks to the wonderful women of the Cañada First Ward Relief Society of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints for providing the refreshments for you. I also remind you to be considerate of others who might not yet be vaccinated. Try hard to maintain social distancing, but, I think hugs are okay for family members and people you know are vaccinated. And yes, please. So you have 3 things that we want you to get before you leave. We have water bottles back there at the registration tables. We have your refreshment goodie bag and these pens. So do not leave without taking those with you. But above all else, take with you our love and our prayers and our fondest hopes for your amazing future. We will now listen to a recording of the La Cañada High School choral artists singing Hear My Prayer, after which our benediction will be given by Father Antonio from St. Bede's Catholic Church. Thank you all for coming this evening.
It is a privilege and honor to be with you this evening and to bless you. May God's blessing follow you all as you begin a new chapter in your life. May you walk safely along the pathway of your dreams. May His gentle hand guide the decision you will make and the passion that you will follow. May your hearts and lives always reflect His love and truth. And may hope be a light within you that carry each day in your life. May the love of God guard your hearts and your minds, calm your fear and anxiety, relieve your doubts, and sustain you with hope. May God's blessing be upon each of you and remain with you forever and ever. Amen.